Welcome. Welcome to Internet Insanity.
Hello and welcome to Internet Insanity. My name is Ezra and I am one of the co-hosts of this podcast where we deal with frustrations that come with the internet and all of the craziness that ensues because we have to use this fucking thing.
The internet doesn't work.
You're right. That's one of the slogans
Yeah.
of this podcast.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite one, actually.
Yeah. It's pretty blunt. I think I have another
pretty
one about the
honest.
internet. Give me a sec.
What?
About the internet.
Oh, you have another one?
The internet doesn't work. Oh, save the internet.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's another one.
God save the internet.
God save the internet. Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that one down.
That's pretty good. Yeah, so David writes down these little like quippy slogans. And I guess we've thought about making some merch once people care about this podcast more. We'll have some merch available for people who want to rep the internet insanity lifestyle.
Yeah. And also, I think we'll have some shirts that will be solely for charity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The internet doesn't work. Take the clickbait out of art. God save the internet. That's the ones we have so far.
Yeah, those are pretty good. If you have any more slogans that you want to have featured on something, maybe we'll have like a contest one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
People could submit ideas and
then get some money for their artistic expression.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the dream. We want to like create a platform for artists to actually make some money.
Yeah.
So
even if it's just like a couple $100 a month, I just know that would be so good for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's totally feasible if the platform gets big enough.
Yeah. Well, we have big dreams, right, David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big dreams, good intentions.
And we have a good mixture of privilege to be able to make those dreams become reality.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say all the ingredients need to be canceled, but
we do have a good amount of ingredients to be canceled.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also maybe you can turn your privilege into something good.
Yeah.
Well, nothing more privileged than coming up with a privileged slogan about privilege.
Ooh. So today we wanted to talk about. So we've spent the past two podcasts kind of diving into our origin, or the last podcast, I guess we dove into
introductions to the internet, childhood, and then a little bit wrestling with teenagehood.
Right, and I think that we both kind of had a similar situation where we both kind of took a break from the internet. And I think that would be kind of cool to talk about today on this one, and like what led us to where we are now with it, and how we became friends. I think is also kind of important to talk about, just because I would never have imagined becoming so close to a cishet white guy in my life. Now where I am, you're my only cishet friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say you're my only trans guy friend.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought I'd be able to talk about like feminist intersectional stuff and come out the other side of a discussion feeling more informed and more hopeful.
Well, I think your approach is really fascinating and different than most cishet white guys that I encounter, where you actually care about listening.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do value listening a lot.
Yeah, I notice.
Yeah.
That's what makes conversations good. I like those good conversations.
Yeah. The conversations are certainly good. I definitely walk away whenever we hang out and talk feeling very hopeful about how in depth and tense and involved a conversation could be, in that it doesn't kind of spiral out into, well, that's your opinion and my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think
defensive.
we've ever had to say, well, let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
We've never said that.
I think we both know we've already started the conversation agreeing to disagree, but
yeah, that's kind of implied, honestly. But I think that we both have an awareness of not being able to really change people.
Yeah.
Like I don't go into a conversation wanting to change you.
Yeah, or fully understand the other person.
Or fully understand you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think with that basic knowledge, a lot can come from that. But you know, if I came into this dynamic being like, I'm gonna fucking save David from his ignorant bullshit privileged like perspective, then we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be friends because I wouldn't see you as a person.
Right.
I would just see you as like a project.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I've definitely had relationships like that.
Oh, okay.
my new project. I'm gonna fix you.
Yeah. It's probably weird for people to believe, but I've always felt like an oddball out in cultural discussions. So I think that just like lends me to a place of being like open and curious and respectful. I just kind of know what that's like. So yeah, here we are, and we both took a break from the internet. The topic is how we both decided to take a break,
and how we came back.
So how old were you? Like, what? I remember you mentioning something about being on Tumblr, or like.
Oh God, I like blocked those years out, honestly. Okay. But yeah, no, I mean that was when I really got into like using drugs and stuff, and so I was like, I needed something to kind of do when I was, because I wasn't doing drugs like with people. I was more doing them alone in my room at that point, like in high school. I was probably like 16, 17.
Right.
And I needed something to like take my attention while I was tripping out. And so, you know, Tumblr was a great outlet for me. I could post nudes on Tumblr. I could flirt with people on Tumblr. I could like kind of fuel my ego and like gain validation and support and community. And that's where like I first started like coming out as trans. Yeah, I met my first like gay people on Tumblr. Like there was just, you know, it was multifaceted what I used that for. But mostly it was just escapism and like fantasy, which is like, you know, one of my first things that I ever really struggled with on the internet was fantasy and like getting lost in this world, this alternate reality where I didn't really have to grow as a person in my real life because I could just grow my personality on social media instead.
Okay.
So yeah.
So then what caused the break?
Well, I did the Tumblr thing for, you know, my whole high school, and, you know, I got my following up to like something crazy. I think I had like 20K or something. Like I had a good following on Tumblr. I was like one of those Tumblr lesbians. I don't know if you know about that. You don't know about that?
I don't know anything.
That's wild, man. You can't even imagine not knowing about that. It's like there's a very quintessential aesthetic for the like the mid 2000s Tumblr lesbian, where you kind of look like Justin Bieber a little bit. You're really skinny, and you maybe have piercings and like maybe a couple of tattoos, like of like an arrow or like a circle or like maybe like a tattoo that goes all the way around your wrist, like a, you know.
That was a Tumblr lesbian?
And you're like soft and pretty and perfect, and like you like, again, really skinny, and maybe you have like, I don't know, bow ties or like tank tops. I don't know. It was just like it was just very cool, and I aspired so hard to be that cool. Okay. And so that's kind of what I was aiming towards, and I maybe achieved it, and maybe I didn't. Maybe I just thought I did. But regardless, there's a lot of pressure, and I one day just decided, in my like stoned state of mind, I decided to to delete it.
Yeah.
I deleted the whole thing, all of everything. Like I didn't just like take a break from it. That was
in
it.
One moment.
One moment, I just decided I deleted it. And then, you know what? I mean, that was like the beginning of me kind of pulling back from the internet. And then when I came out as trans after, you know, when I was 18, I was just sort of like, I had been comparing myself to a bunch of trans guys for like a year or so on YouTube, on Instagram, whatever. And then, you know, when I realized that I couldn't ever really, I couldn't foresee myself being as proud of who I was or as confident in my body and my skin, whatever. I just kind of pulled away. And also that was when I got really heavily involved in my like alcoholism and stuff. So I was kind of like too fucked up to like consistently post things.
Right.
And I thought, like, when I first started testosterone, I was like, I'm going to document everything, and everyone's going to feel like really a part of this transition. Like, it's going to be like a community thing. Like, everyone's going to know about like my ins and outs and my emotions. But then I realized you have to know you have to have self-awareness.
Oh, I see.
Of your actual emotions and what you're experiencing, which I was too checked out to actually become aware of that stuff. And I didn't want to feel anything.
Right.
So it's just sort of like I don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really like in myself. I didn't really know who I was yet. So I was just sort of like checked out, you know?
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, I watched porn still, but as far as like a social media presence goes, like I like opted out for a couple years. And that was when I was also living in the woods of Northern California. I was completely off the grid. Like I didn't have you know, I just didn't have a desire to have a community. I didn't want to be trans at that time. I hated the fact that I was trans. I wanted to be a cis guy. I didn't want to connect with the community at all. So,
have you seen anyone post stuff like hating that they're trans?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's really common. There's like this whole subsect of the trans community that's like really they really police the trans identity, and they are basically, it's called True Scum if you look it up.
And I think I've heard ContraPoints, Natalie Wynn, mention it. She compared them to the incels.
She's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So True Scum basically means like you believe that there's one way to be trans. You have to have dysphoria to be trans. You have to hate your body. You have to want surgery. If you can access surgery, you get surgery. That's it.
Yeah.
And like it's very medical. It's very like this is the way it is. And you have to also hate the fact that you're trans. Like you have to want to be cis.
Yeah.
And there are trans people who feel that way, and that is valid, but that is not the whole experience, I believe. Because, like, you know, I know trans people who don't feel that way about themselves, who are non-binary, whatever. Like, there's just so many different varieties that happen within the trans community that, like, you can't just, like, say it's one way.
Yeah. I'm wondering, you know, I just never noticed this, but I wonder why the internet lends itself to policing so much. Like, my first guess would be that it's an attention resource where, like, you want people to feel like it's a form of status. Like, if someone goes, hey, I like what you're wearing, or I really liked your post, that's like a feeling like, okay, I'm contributing to the herd. I'm really like a part of the community, and I feel safe, and I feel like encouraged. And so if you're having like these different people that are like, no, it has to be this way, and then you're like, no, fuck you, it's like it has to be this way because this is how I feel comfortable and secure about myself. Even if it's a fucked up ideology, it's still like, this is what I think, how I feel, this is how I feel I'll belong. And so then if someone counterpoints that it's like you have to be policed because you're making this insecure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you're basically putting a strain on their concept of belonging.
yeah,
And you're putting that into question, and you're questioning the parameters of their worldview.
right.
And they don't. I mean, I don't think that it's coming from a place um, of. I think that their intention is to simplify the trans experience into a palatable way where other people can like understand it,
Right.
and they don't want it to become this like sort of conceptual, like in the sky kind of like weird, like amorphic concept. They want it to be medical. They want it to just like have a very clear definition and keep it that way. But that's not reality.
Right.
Like gender is such an elusive idea, and you know, it can be argued that it is very much a social construct. And that argument, that idea that gender is a social construct, really puts into question like a lot of people's ideas, right? And like it's really uncomfortable when you've never questioned that before, and then all of a sudden you're questioning it.
Right.
And then to be trans and have already gone through so much shit with your gender, and then to be like to learn like, oh, there are no rules, but you're like, no, but I'm abiding by all of these rules. I've learned how to be a man.
Right.
I've learned like all these things, and like don't tell me that I went through all this bullshit in order to find out that like none of it is real, because my experience is real. So how could you tell me it's not? But it's like, bitch, I'm not talking about you. Right. I'm talking about me.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I know this is such a tangent, but it's something that I think about a lot.
I mean, yeah, because it's a big part of your experience. I mean, that's something that's always tripped me out when people say I don't really care about it, and they totally do. Like for me, if society was like, we're banning all of black licorice, like I wouldn't care because I don't really like it. So I wouldn't be like, whatever. But if they're like, we're banning like ribs, even though I don't eat them all the time, I really do like how they taste, but I'm starting to eat more vegan now. I know I would be like stressed out. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't say I don't really care if there's a part of me that actually does care and then wants to like negotiate the topic of discussion. So I can see like when it comes to gender, it's like there's all this like policing going around, which is crazy because it's like, even I'm sure there's probably policing on the most progressive. I mean, obviously, but there's policing on the most progressive of sides as to how you're discussing it, and there's policing on the most transphobic and like sexist of sides.
Yeah,
and it's like everyone's just trying to keep like each other quote like in line, but in reality, they're just different opinions. Obviously, one has more of a violent agenda than the other. It's pretty clear to see when you're trying to tell someone's their expression is wrong. That's cultural violence. But it is. I mean, that's something for me. Like I just stand back and I kind of watch it unfold. I kind of like to see how people are policing each other, because to me, it's like at the end of the day, it is a lot of like crazy behavior. Some of it's totally genuine. I mean, if you have anxieties about, like, for instance, if society was like, oh yeah, J.S. Bach, he was a piece of shit, which I know isn't true, but that's how much I care about J.S. Bach, this composer in the 1650s. But if just say society was like, we're banning it, I would be livid. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be on the corners protesting because it's something really important to me.
That is so funny to me.
I know, it's so ridiculous. I can't, but I mean, that's something that I wrote when I wrote like when I started writing notes for the podcast. Part of it was a lot of the conflict you see on the internet is only when it involves that something important.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's how I feel when somebody is basically spewing nonsense like, um, you have to have dysphoria to be trans, which
Right.
is a really succinct way
Mhm.
of discrediting any trans person who doesn't feel like they hate their parts.
Right.
And they exist out there. They are so valid, and they get so much shit from not only transphobic people who aren't trans, but also transphobic people who are trans,
Mhm.
you know, who are trying to police, you know, other trans folks who don't feel the same way that they do.
Yeah.
And when I see that happening, I get livid because the thing is, I went from being a person who believed that you had to have dysphoria to be trans, and I turned into a person who didn't believe that.
Mhm.
So I see the perspective of both sides of things. Like, I know what it's like to feel like my identity is being, what's the word, questioned or invalidated, I guess, or like my experience was invalidated by the idea that there are trans folks who haven't experienced dysphoria, because
Right.
I feel protective, I feel defensive. I'm
Mhm.
like, how dare you claim this?
Mhm.
It's not fucking fun to be trans. Like, how
Mhm.
fucking dare you? And I get mean about it, and I got mean about it.
Yeah.
You know, I never spewed that opinion online, but I did think that way
Mhm.
initially, but then because it arose such a response within me, I was like, okay, I have to look at this, obviously, like, because I'm reacting so strongly and I feel so defensive. And then I was like, okay, like, what is it? Oh, it's just that, like, I struggled so much, and I just believe that, like, other people should have had to struggle the same amount as me in order to claim this identity,
Mhm.
and that's not true.
Mhm.
So I can let that go.
Right.
And I did, and then I was fine.
Was this also when you weren't online?
No, this was like when I kind of came back into the world, and this was like, you know, I came back into the world of online social media stuff once I kind of had some more time to figure out who I was, and I felt like there was something to say, kind of, even if what I was saying was getting stoned tonight and like look at my ass, like that was kind of what I started with, and then slowly but surely I got back into it. But when we come back, I really do want to hear about why you took a break from the internet.
Okay.
Because I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah. Speaking of breaks,
let's take a break. All right, we're back from the break. Oh, my voice cracked. We can keep that in, whatever.
Yeah.
We're back from the break. How was your break?
It was short.
It was short.
Yeah.
We literally just we just said we were going to take a break, and then we came back.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talked about a little bit what I've gone through with the internet in like my late adolescence and early adulthood, and I'm curious about what led you to take the break from the internet.
Well, I hope to tie this to the policing and stuff that we were talking about. When I was 17, I also was in a deep drug addiction, and I got into Kurt Cobain because I heard the song "Dumb" and it changed my life. And I was like, I have to be a musician. This is the most. I can't believe something made me feel like so heard and seen. And I was just like I was such a lonely kid, and so I remember I think a family member bought his journals, and one of the journals it said like the television is the worst fucking thing you could have. Like, if you have one, throw it out the window right now. And I was like, I thought about it, and I went, yeah, it's distracting me from a lot of things. Like, I want to be a musician. I want to write a bunch of songs. I want to get better at music. I had a friend who was like really good at guitar and getting like jazz guitar lessons and stuff. So I was able to see like how developed a musician could get. And I also thought, just these television shows weren't doing shit. And so I was like, fuck television and fuck computer. I don't even, I'm just going to maybe download some music, but I'm just going to spend my time like reading and writing music. And I did that for a while. and I also got into heavier drug addiction as well. But yeah, I just focused on my art, and I felt very like proud of myself that I was like an artist, and I was dedicating myself to like this way of life, and that I didn't have any distractions. It was just me being self-absorbed with myself and my thoughts about the world. And what's funny is like I had a MySpace account. I would just post my music up on there, but I didn't really I didn't take it seriously because to me the internet was a giant attention game. Like I didn't really have a concept of followers actually. Like when I'd see people have like thousands of followers, or I would be like, that's gotta be so crazy. Like how do you stay in touch with all these people? Like I would legit like think weird like that. Like I didn't think it was just you have a bunch of attention and now people will like offer you opportunities to like exploit that attention and then make more money off of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think that. I just thought like, wow, this person's self-centered. Like I looked at celebrities that way, like self-centered. So I just had no clue of what was really happening, and I had a really strong judgment of the world. I thought the world was a really fucked up place, but I wanted to save it or something. But long story short is like I just was a drug addict and I needed help really bad, and I was probably very, very manic and psychotic as well. So I got sober, and then people started asking me for my Facebook, and that was weird. But I wanted to have friends again, so I just started to use an account, and it just seemed very phony still, and I didn't really care about it too much. And I never would post pictures of myself. I would like try to find interesting things. Um, and then one day, see, I still don't really have an internet presence. Honestly, this podcast is like the first attempt I'm going to make at having some kind of internet presence. Um, One day I just was like, man, I just want to have a bunch of Facebook friends. And I just clicked add friend, add friend, add friend.
Whoa.
Just like randomly. I just went, why the fuck do I care if I know these people or not? If they don't want to be my friend, they won't be my friend. That's fine. Like, it doesn't matter.
That's so funny.
Like, if they do, and quick tip, if you want to increase your friends, add someone whose profile picture is them holding a microphone because they're a comedian, and they will always add you because comedians are very needy or they love the attention.
Interesting.
That was one of the funniest things I knew right away. But yeah, so I and all of a sudden I started people having their own opinions and their own conversations and their own ways of policing each other. And for me, I was like, whoa, this is fucking nuts. Like these conservatives. Actually, let me backtrack really quickly. I had a lot of friends who were into conspiracy theories as well when I wasn't on the internet. And I was fascinated at all the things they would believe in. I would tell them they're crazy. There's no way all of this could be happening. But I was so fascinated. Like, every week there was a new alien that, like, the government was in touch with. And
I love conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
They get so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Like, as if they're trying to save the world.
Yeah, and I would be like, you see, this is just made by some person by themselves. Like, it's just they're copying and pasting images.
Beautiful.
And they were just like, no, man, like the world's, I think they were trying to displace a lot of hurt emotion and stuff like that. But I was fascinated by it. And then I also got into my own new age craze. And I was trying to get enlightened online too. And just basically, I was a social misfit, loner. Thought it was all a game of attention. I thought it was all just a big phony fucking thing. And I had like a lot of mental health issues that prevented me from having like a social, like, just I couldn't go from interaction to interaction in real life with a sense of like comfort and safety. It was just all a giant fucking rambling mess, and all I desperately wanted was just to be a musician, and I didn't know how that was going to work out. And I hold myself to such a strict standard where I was like, well, I'm not going to showcase my music till I was ready. And I did that until I was like 29. So I started putting a little stuff on my music.
A little bit of perfectionism there.
Totally. Yeah, perfectionism and total insane grand delusions of an idealization. But But that one day where I added all these Facebook friends, I found it very cool to see how crazy everyone was and to see like where everyone's reasoning was. And I would laugh about how people would police each other for one thing and they police each other in the other way. And I wouldn't participate. I actually started curating it where I was
Wow.
like, I have like there's this one Trump fan that I'm friends with. And they're like they believe in all the conspiracy theories and they love Trump and so I don't have any other Trump followers really or friends on this Facebook account because all roads that's what I could see. I was like, oh, all roads of discussion lead to this person. That's kind of how I would put it. Like they're like very
you got the
they're in their
jackpot.
echo chamber.
Yeah.
And so then they're feeding all of this stuff, and then their echo chamber is very specific, and so then like cool, let me move on to the next person.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's good to have at least one Trump following friend so that you can see a little bit of what's going on that side of the discussion. I like to stay well informed with all sides of things. I just find it fascinating, and like some of the stuff that I see is like very triggering. Like I want to yell at them and I want to cancel them, but then I'm like, if I block this person, like I won't be able to see this stuff, and I want to be able to see it eventually, like every once in a while,
Yeah.
So I feel that.
Yeah, for me, I don't really get triggered. I think it's the still kind of like angry 12-year-old boy who doesn't feel heard. So to me, it's funny when I see like people argue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the only times I've blocked people is when I've seen some really like fucked up violent stuff. But I've still been pretty quiet, but now I'm starting to change that because part of me feels like my art people deserve to hear it. I know that sounds really arrogant, but I put a lot of love and attention to it. It's kind of like I like thinking about it like a chef would. Like chefs cook like really good food and they work really hard onto it, but they don't eat all their food. That's why I find it very like I've cried at like there was a show The Final Table about all these like really expert chefs and I would cry because I was just like, oh my god, they're putting in so much work and they don't eat it. They give it to someone else.
That's
it's so beautiful. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like I feel comfortable now, but I also was just like I can't take selfies every day. Like I don't know. I don't even have a platform really. It's like there's a lot of more important discussions that are having, and I don't think my opinion is important or like I'm interrupting an important discussion or people are having discussions and they don't want to hear an alternative take. And it's like there's all this policing going on and some of it's important, some of it's completely nonsense. So, that's why that's why I like this podcast so much. I get a lot from it too, because it's like, I don't have an answer. I don't have any way to solve all of these issues with the policing or things like that.
Yeah, I think like just being able to kind of talk about it without really a end goal is helpful, and just having the intention be that we're, shedding some light on our experiences with it and hopefully shedding some light on other people's experiences the more we interview and stuff like that.
Yeah. I actually do have one thing I think is pretty interesting. I had this practice with envy for a year. So
tell me about it.
So I for my own personal stuff, I got really interested in the emotion of envy, and I was fascinated by it, still am. And basically, it's just someone has something you want, and you feel upset that it's not fair that you didn't get it. So like, I noticed I was having that with artists, and there was one particular artist. They were an actress, and then one day they said, oh, I'm thinking about being a musician. What instrument should I play? And then, of course, all these like thirsty guys were like, this, that, da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, I think I'm going to play guitar. Hey, how does someone make an album? And a bunch of thirsty guys helped her out. And then it's like, cool. go do my GoFundMe. And to me, it just seemed very easy for them. And it felt very like there wasn't a lot of thought behind it. And so I would just feel this like, fuck that person. And I was like, damn, this is crazy. Okay, this is envy. So for me, I had to learn to have a relationship with envy. So I would check their Instagram every day and like watch the feeling and know that it had nothing to do with them. It was just me and my perspective and my emotional difficulties. And it was a challenge to grow as a human being. So I did this for every day. And then I think at 6 months, they had like, I don't know, it's average. I didn't really count the time, but just like after a while, I remember they had a show, and I just was like, whatever. Oh, I thought, I don't even know why I care so much. They make music completely different than mine. Mm-hmm. Like, they want to succeed at making this genre of music. I want to succeed at making this genre of music.
Right.
And then I remember another like while later they were on like a small tour, and my thought was, good for them.
That's and it awesome. Was genuine.
It was genuine.
Yeah.
And then that's when I felt really comfortable with my perspectives, actually. That's where I have my perspectives on the internet and artistry. I just kind of I felt less of, I guess I conquered, or I was able to really make peace with that compare and despair type of stuff that happens so commonly on the internet.
Yeah.
So I think that was, honestly, that's probably the proudest thing I have when it comes to this whole situation, was that I don't really experience that anymore. I see someone having like a ton of following, and I think their art is less than mine. I actually go, well, they're doing something pretty interesting that I don't know about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I genuinely have those thoughts now.
That's cool. I don't. If I'm jealous of somebody on the internet, I unfollow them immediately. I'm like, okay, I'm clearly too sensitive for this. Like, bye.
Yeah.
Because, well, I think coming from the instability that I deal with regarding my own self-esteem and self-confidence and self-image and body image and all of that stuff, it is always so, like, I'm like spinning so many plates, and it feels like so fragile. When I do feel good about myself, I'm like, oh my God, I have to protect this as much as possible. And so, like curating my feed so that it doesn't trigger me and doesn't trigger some sort of like thing like, oh, I have to starve myself for 5 days now because I saw somebody with abs or whatever. Like, that happens to me so frequently that like I literally have to unfollow people like every day, because even if I like their content, the envy gets so intense for me that like I will risk my health and my sanity, and it's not worth it to me.
Yeah, that's good that you catch that though, because
yeah,
it's really it's a emotion that I think causes a lot of problems, and people don't discuss it as much. Like, yeah. There's this study that they did with I think it's capuchin monkeys. But anyways, there's 2 monkeys, and they're separated by a glass pane, so they can see each other. And so you push a button and you get a treat. Well, one gets a cucumber and one gets a grape. And grapes are fucking awesome. So they push the button. The one that gets a cucumber notices that the other one got a grape. Throws a fucking fit. Like, just literally is like, fuck this.
Whoa.
And then they do it a second time. And when the cucumber monkey sees that he still isn't getting a grape, he won't even eat the cucumber. He's just like, I'm done. And like won't eat any of the treats. So it's like, that's how old this type of like feelings are. So I do think it's a big deal. And I know, like, you know, workplaces kind of are discussing it because you can have envy for your coworker and stuff. But I think like that probably happens all the time on the internet, where it's like you're trying to emulate somebody, or you have a certain niche. I mean, imagine if someone came out with a podcast, right? And it was like a cishet white dude and a trans Latinx guy. They were both musicians, and their podcast was called like online wackiness or something, and then they got like millions of followers. Like it would suck. I'd be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like they did our idea and they're doing better than us. So it's like that's totally envy, you know?
Oh my god, can you imagine just like I feel like if we were together and we saw that was happening, we would just be like, what? Like I just can't even imagine like the sensations that would happen in my brain and body.
I think any of the serenity that I have brought to the podcast would just erode.
But also I think I'd laugh.
Yeah,
I would laugh, probably because it's not my idea though too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I just, David one time was like, Ezra, I have this idea, but we have to meet at a diner and it has to be really late at night and let's sit in the back and like, I'll tell you the idea, but like make sure that no one's listening. Like he was so paranoid about this because he was like, this is the best idea. Like nobody has done this yet.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
I will say I was paranoid that someone would take the idea and not recognize the potential accountabilities and growth that was there. Because to me, it's like everyone wants a podcast and everyone wants to make money off a podcast. Because I don't know, it seems like a pretty fun gig. But in my mind, if you were just some like comedian who likes attention, and then it's like, oh man, the internet's crazy, let's talk about it, and then they're just like, cool, like I got ads now, and like I'm able to do my comedy. It's like part of me is like, that's not like that. The platform can be so much, can address so many important things besides like, no, go ahead, sir.
It's also like kind of counterintuitive to the whole concept of the podcast to like to let it like inflate your ego and let it kind of like ride the wave of like arrogance, like I have this podcast, like listen to it, it's awesome, like self-promoting a bunch and then being like, but it's about the internet and how crazy it is. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what feels a little weird about promoting this podcast in general, because it like,
5 stars.
Yeah, sure. Please rate us and subscribe to us. No, but it's a tricky one, because I don't know, like we're talking about how crazy the internet is and how how trippy the algorithm is, and yet we're using the internet to promote this podcast. And
right.
I think that's why it's important to say that like I don't hate the internet.
Yeah.
I don't. Do I believe it doesn't work? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Do I believe that it's inherently racist? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like transphobic? Absolutely. So like there's a lot that I can critique about the internet, but I also like am not one of those people that's like, and I'm opting out completely. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Because that's just not realistic.
Totally.
And I do believe that there's hope.
Yeah.
So, so what so you came back to the internet with a very clear intention, it seems like, of connecting and
yeah, I'll totally own that. Yeah, I just honestly, it was like I feel comfortable putting my art out there, and I don't feel comfortable trying to play the game
right
that everyone says you have to play. And honestly, I didn't know what to do with it. I just went whatever. And then plus I got this injury where like my hands like getting like I have an injury where I haven't been able to play music for like a year and a half, and so I was and still can't play music that much. So I was actually thinking a lot about art, and it happened right when I was comfortable putting my art out there. So then when I couldn't put my art out there, I was still in a place where I could comfortably think about these like authentic intentions. So like for me, like promoting the podcast is weird. But I go, it's only weird if I think about myself and my troubles and how I want that to be easier. And I don't really feel like it would be a complete lie if I was like, no, I'm pure-hearted. Like, but to me, my guiding idea is I just think of an artist who made something really cool or really heartfelt whatever it is. It's just that, that special moment all artists know when you've created something. And then I'm like, I hope that if they listen to this podcast, they feel the freedom to either share it or not share it, and not feel any guilt or anxiety or shame or anger, just to feel, to be free from this technology and what you're supposed to do with it, and just feel empowered that your art is special, it's important. you know there's a book on art and evolution that I want to read, that like the way we treat art may be actually um, significantly unhealthy.
Mm, cool.
And so when I think of that artist, um, I have no problems feeling excited to read that book and share about it and hopefully empower like other artists.
Right.
So, and that's why I say, like, I really hope people will support the podcast by like doing the stupid things that everyone wants to do. And I understand that if you're feeling really jealous or something like that, you wouldn't want to. And I would just say, like, you know, do it anyways, because hopefully then we can have you on and help you out. And so then it feels like this is just part of the thing to keep this going, is just to give it the 5 stars and to subscribe to whatever else stuff we're doing.
Clever. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. No, I hear you. I think that, like, as humans, we often need to have a purpose greater than ourselves in order to actually sustain our motivation. I mean, I know that, like, when I am trying to motivate myself based on ego and self-promotion and just kind of inflating my sense of self, there's a limitation to it. There's always a crash and burn that happens where I always end up feeling like overwhelm and hopelessness and a sort of like, fuck this, like I can't sustain this. But when I think about the idea of just like potentially helping somebody else out, it takes me out of all that like sticky fucking self shit. Right. And it refocuses my intentions on something just like a little bit greater than me. Yeah. And that's all I need. That's all I need to like make stuff, is just like a little bit of zoomed out perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's why I was telling you earlier, like the idea of life being a joke, like life is a joke, really helps me make art, because if I'm just here to play and like enjoy myself, that doesn't mean that I have to like, constantly be in a state of like of humor or whatever. Like that's not what I mean. But like, the idea that like I don't really know what I'm doing here, and like it's kind of ridiculous, like the world that we've created. Yeah. It's violent, it's crazy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But just to be like, it's not. It's just, I don't know, man. Like I don't fucking know. I'm just gonna like make this song, okay?
Right.
Like, it takes the pressure off of me.
Yeah.
A lot, and I hope that we can like pass that along somehow.
Yeah. Well, I think we can. It's meaning, I've read, and I firmly believe that meaning is found in community and in connection and safety. So whatever we want from our art or our social media accounts, I personally would say if it doesn't have a sense of community, then the person's always going to be left wanting and feeling kind of isolated. Or if it's big enough, then they have someone else who works at it like a fucking job and they don't have to think about it.
That's the fucking dream.
Oh, man. That sounds so wrong to me.
I don't know. I mean, I'm open to my perspective changing on that, but at this point, when I think about social media, I get so overwhelmed, and especially in the quarantine, It just feels so overwhelming to me. Like, I've had so many moments where I'm just like, fuck this, like, I'm out. And I obviously haven't deleted anything, but like I still think about it sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that that's just the state of mind I'm in right now, but I am so changeable.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's cool about the people we've already had on. They've definitely like.
Well, they don't know that yet, David. We don't have listeners.
No, but they know that this is a redo, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I think we were honest about that in the first episode.
Yeah, yeah.
So this second podcast is also a redo. I mean, this episode.
I think this is the third one.
Third? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow, you're right.
Yeah. But anyways, even I mean, this is what's fun is like you talk to an artist and you go, hey, like, do you have any ideas of like what's it like for you to put yourself out there on it? Do you have any difficulties or successes? They just go, their eyes just light up and they're like, holy shit, you don't even know.
Yeah.
And I think like that sense of understanding is going to be really cool. I think it's going to be really cool because there's going to be a sense of relief, a sense of understanding, more encouragement for more art, and then if we can support artists, then it'll be just a healthy circle or loop.
And on that note, let's take one more break.
Okay. So we're back. We gave the impassioned speech.
What?
That's what we were doing, right? We were like, support the podcast. I believe in it. It's good.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess yeah. We were pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, that's where we left off.
Okay. Work. So much has happened since then.
Yeah, we never got around to your current avatar. Or
my current avatar?
No, I'm just trying to be nerdy. Your current online persona when you got back.
Well, I kind of mentioned, I got a little more confidence, I think. Did I mention that or no?
No.
Not really, huh?
No, you were checked out on a lot of drugs.
Okay.
You'd ended your Tumblr.
So once I kind of came back to reality, I kind of came back to social media.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I left a really, really toxic relationship with my ex, and I moved out of the woods into the world again. I wasn't living in a tiny home in the forest anymore. I was living in Santa Barbara again. I started beauty school. Beauty school you have to have an Instagram for because you have to start building up your following and posting your progress and stuff so that when you eventually get out of beauty school, you can show a salon manager, hey, look, this is what I do. Mm-hmm. This is my work, whatever. So I was already starting to kind of learn about marketing yourself and self-promotion and stuff like that, hashtagging shit. So that's kind of what brought me back into the world. And then, as somebody who gets really obsessed really quickly, I was like, okay, I'm going to master this now. I'm going to become like the most bestest internet person. And at that point I had started working out. I was a couple of years on testosterone, so I looked like a boy to everyone else. And I was like, not just that, I was like a cute boy, and I had come out as gay, so I was like feeling myself for the first time ever, really. I hadn't ever been confident before, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, like I'm getting validation. People are reaching out that I don't know who are telling me that I'm hot. And it felt great. It felt so good. And I was like, okay, like I can use this. Like I can work with this. But, just like anybody who has, addictive tendencies, like it wasn't like I could just manage it and be like grounded with that influx of positive feedback. It was like, oh my God, now this is my drug. How can I use this now? So I did. I mean, I tried my best to use it, and to the point where I was using social media to rent my body out.
Whoa.
And tried that whole escorting game, which, worked. I mean, it did. I did that. And, I think that was a culmination of the information that I was receiving from people on the internet, telling me like, oh my God, you're so hot. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then I was like, oh, wow, I guess I could get paid for this. Like, if I'm like, how hot am I? Like, name your price. Like, and I think a lot of trans folks end up getting that sort of feedback from social media. I didn't feel human. I felt fetishized, and I was fetishized. So that information that I was receiving, I was now internalizing it. And as a young, impressionable 19-year-old kid, I was like, I want to make some money. Mm-hmm. And this is the way I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I started camming. I did that. And then I did the renting. It was called rentmen.com.
Oh.
That's why I call it renting, because it's like,
wow.
They rented me. Rentmen. And of course, I learned about that from another trans guy who was like pretty successful at it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm just as cute as he is. Like I could do that. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't keep my self-esteem and do that at the same time. I tried every which way. I couldn't do it. Sadly, because it was great money. I would make like $2,000 in one night.
Damn.
In cash. And I was like, but $2,000 in one night by just like, having sex with some guy, like, is the equivalent to working an 8-hour shift and getting paid like $200. The money lasted the exact same amount of time for me. I didn't know I could not process how much money $2,000 was, because I didn't feel like I really worked for it that much. So literally like within, I don't even know how long it took me to blow through it, but it was so quick. It was like nothing had happened. Because when you give a 19-year-old $2,000 for 5 hours of quote unquote work. I mean, it was work. Like I did emotional labor. I listened to this guy while I had my finger in his butthole, like, and he would tell me stories about the good old days. I mean, that was real. Like, and with the Beach Boys playing in the background, he's like, man, I love this song. And my finger is fully in his butt. Yeah, so, the internet has allowed me to have some really nutty experiences that I would never have had otherwise. And I definitely, have learned since how to manage it better, and it's so cheesy, but when I get validation on the internet, or compliments, I usually have to say, it's not for me. Like, I can't take it. I can't fully take it, because I have to remember that they're interpreting my persona, and all of it is curated. I take pictures in very specific angles with very specific lighting, and the truth is, like, they're seeing something that they really want to see. Oh. And if I take all of that compliment and I'm like, that is for me, then I start to feel like the person in the picture rather than the person taking the picture in real life. And that's a slippery slope for me. And maybe it's a little complicated to think about it that way. And most people probably don't think about it that much. But for me, because I'm so sensitive and I've worked so hard on my mental health to get to a point where I feel serenity a lot of the time, I know that that serenity is very precarious once I open up the Instagram app. And so in order to keep my serenity, I have to think about things like this. Because otherwise, I go nuts. And I have gone nuts. And a lot of my followers have seen me go nuts on social media. So, I'm not super relaxed about it. And because I can't be. I really have to be vigilant with myself, which means I have to take little breaks sometimes and, delete the app, not my account, but just the app and stuff like that. But yeah, I love it. I still love it.
Yeah.
But it's a love-hate kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think a lot of people have that, especially people who have like a bigger following. I think they deal with that a lot.
Yeah.
And what I think everyone relates to is comparing themselves with who they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very human. But instead of like a photo in a family album or in some kind of art display, now it's like your account.
Yeah.
It's funny how like talking with you, I had no idea people curated their Instagrams. I know. It's like you're giving me this look like your eyes are bulging out, but it's like I didn't think that. I thought it was just like, okay, let's put this new cool picture of me today, and like it'll just be like
Oh my God.
another photo in the album of the awesomeness that is me, as opposed to like specific layouts and the level
and the colors. Like colors really play into it, because if you look at somebody's profile that has a really curated Instagram, you'll notice that like each photo goes with the next photo that it's going to be touching.
Wow.
It's going to be bordering.
See, now I want to go on the app and just see it.
Oh yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
I mean, even like my partner, he really considers the way that his page is going to be viewed. Mm-hmm. So like for Pride, like he'll post like three pictures in a row for each color of the rainbow, and then as you scroll, it changes from purple to red or whatever. It's things like that are like that take so much like attention to think about. Like, you really have to lay it out properly. And sometimes you'll make a mistake, and then you will get all the likes on one picture, and then you'll realize you have to delete it, and then repost it, and it's like then all of a sudden you have less likes on one picture. It's oh my God, it's just. But even talking about it, I get exhausted.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's just like there is so much. It feels like I'm just barely touching the surface.
And you're someone who likes it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
See, I don't feel tired at all. I'm just interested because I'm like, after I learn this, I'm not going to try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
well, I don't try it either. Honestly, I don't really pay attention to like aesthetic that much. I focus more on like the composition of each picture now. And I really do try to like put a lot of energy in like the quality of my photos now. I used to like only use my iPhone camera, and now I have a really nice camera, and that's what I do now. Like I only upload pictures that are taken with a nice camera.
Oh, whoa. That's cool.
I mean, is it? Yeah.
I mean, as long as you're having fun with it and you're taking care of yourself when you're, being obsessive or something like that. And, I mean, they call, you have something called like sleep hygiene, where it's like, don't look at blue light before you go to bed, and go to bed at the regular hour. There's probably going to be there's going to be terms of social media hygiene. I'm sure it's already out there, if not, or maybe they don't want it out there because then
it's out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen it. And like I have a friend who suggested a social media support group thing that's I guess happening now, which is like a branch out of Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous.
Okay.
And it sounds really cool. It sounds like I would do really, I'd be really uncomfortable in one of those meetings.
Yeah.
In a good way,
Yeah.
But also like I'm too scared. But it might be a cool thing to like check out, just so I could relay like how I felt during the meeting and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be interesting
on the show.
Yeah, because there's tons of literature on internet addiction that I was going to read at some point.
Add it to the list
of
books you're going to read.
Yeah. My friend the other day was like, David, you read more books than I've seen. That was funny.
That's funny. It's probably true. I could probably count the amount of books I've read on my hands.
Yeah.
Maybe even one hand. And yet here we are having
Yeah.
full conversations,
Yeah.
which just shows, you know, like there's so many different ways to learn this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like some people really retain information from reading, and I'm one of those people that like once I have a conversation with someone who's smarter than me,
Mm-hmm.
I start to be able to really pick up on what they're talking about, and I can like ingest a lot of information from a conversation.
Yeah,
you know,
that's cool.
Yeah, it feels cool.
Yeah, I read a lot of these books, and I don't have any expertise in them, and I come up with my own ideas, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. People who I know who are academics are very uncomfortable around me.
I bet.
Because they're just like, oh, you didn't go to school, and you're not going to peer-reviewed studies, you're not trying to get tenure. Like, pulling out Edmund T. Rolls out your ass.
That's why I like talking to you, though, because you're not so fucking arrogant with your information.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I did grow up around a lot of, like, academic folks.
Yeah.
All my friends were pretty smart, and my sister is, like, a master in mathematics.
Whoa.
Legit, literally. She has a master's. And that kind of, it's just hard to connect for me sometimes with people who are super, super academic.
Yeah, there was a guy, I had a meeting, and he was interested because I mentioned, like, I was reading biolinguistics or something. And then we started talking about interpersonal neurobiology. Anyways, and he went, I was like, you know, Alan Shore. And he went, oh, I know Alan Shore. And I literally was like, bro! And I gave him, like, this really hard high five because of this, like, nerdy psychologist. Like, it was just so funny to me because he was like, oh, this is fucking weird, because he's probably used to people talking about it, like, oh, this information is really interesting, and this is,
but you got so excited.
I got so excited. I literally was like, bro, and I like gave this huge high five, and then laughed at how ridiculous I am.
Wow,
like,
that's cute. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're running out of time, and our next guest, or our first guest we're going to have on is Mars Wright. He is an amazing person on the internet who I've followed for a long time and I look up to a lot. He has a lot of insight on social media and the algorithm and stuff. So that's going to be great. And that's going to come out next week.
Yep. And you can email us at internetinsanitypod@gmail.com if you want to be a guest. Also, Internet Insanity Pod on the Instagram. And you can comment and follow and cancel and
do anything you really want.
We're trying to figure this out together. And share us your art. Please share us your art. Oh, it sounds so good. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon.